Live on YouTube. Live on TikTok.
Okay.
Here's this. I'm going to cut the promo. Have a good chat.
Thank you.
And I didn't figure out how to get the comments for both.
That's fine. All right, guys, welcome to my Thursday. So I'm just gonna pull up some SAT problems from our little practice exam. Let's see. Oh, okay, let's do this one. All right, so we've got some equivalent expressions here. So let me know in the chat what you think about it and what your answer choice would be on this one. And we'll go over it in just a few minutes. Oh, we got lots of D's. So my Instagram, everything is all the same. The Mathed Up Show. All of my socials are all the same handle. And go find us. Go find me everywhere. Okay, so we've got lots of choices here. So for those of you just joining us, take a look at this SAT problem. It's from the practice test. I think it's number 8. I don't remember which number it is, but I'm pretty sure it's number 8. And so, yeah, so this is combining like terms, and we're going to get into it in just a minute. Give everybody a chance to get in, get settled, maybe make their choices, all of that good stuff. And then we'll go over them. Oh, hi, Math Dude. I'm good. How are you? It's a great day. I'm doing math. It's my Thursday. This is not from the ASVAB, but it's very similar. The ASVAB, what is that? It's Armed Services Vocational something battery, vocational assessment battery? I don't remember. But it's, yeah, a lot of it is the kind of basic Algebra 1 concepts. So this is certainly, this is technically from an SAT practice exam, but it's still comparable to any other like multiple choice standardized test. Okay. All right, so let's get into this. So I saw a lot of great things that you guys were asking, a lot of really good questions that you were asking. So with this, when we've got this equivalent, okay, equivalent means equal, okay? So we've got this, we've got really two different pieces in here, right? And we are adding them together. So we've got 2x squared plus x minus 9 plus x squared plus 6x plus 1. Since these two big pieces are being added together, I can actually just drop the parentheses, Okay, so I can drop the parentheses. So I've got 2x squared plus x minus 9 plus x squared plus 6x plus 1. Oh, I'm going off the side a little bit. Okay, and then once I have that written out, I can combine like terms. Okay, so when I go through and I combine the like terms, I'm going to be looking at, so I've got 2x squared plus x squared, so that's going to give me 3x squared. I've got x plus 6x, so that's plus 7x. And then I've got minus 9 plus 1, which is minus 8. Okay, so going through and combining all of these like terms, I get 3x squared plus 7x minus 8. And that answer is D. Excellent job. So many of you picked D. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So for those of you just joining us, this is one of the released practice or previous SAT exams. So some of these questions are going to be really, really simple, but really the majority of SAT and ACT exam concepts are from pre-algebra and algebra 1. So a lot of times when I do these, people don't believe me that they're SAT because it's like, oh, this is too easy. A lot of these questions are pretty easy. Okay. So like this one, okay, and actually I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. I know you can't see the whole graph. That's okay. There's no information that you're missing out from the top. But the question is, what is the y-intercept of the graph shown? Okay, so go ahead and get your answers in. Hi, Pancake Mix. All right, so let's get into this one. We've got, the question is, what is the y-intercept of the graph shown? So even if you've only dealt with graphs of like linear equations, right? Like straight lines, okay? Let's see. So we've got the y-intercept is always going to be the y-intercept, okay? And what that is it's where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, so where it crosses the y-axis. So all the time, and right here, look at that. They labeled it for us. There's the x-axis, there's the y-axis. Oh, well, you can't really see that. But up there, the part that kind of got cut off, the y-axis is labeled also. Sorry about that. Boop, boop, boop. But the y-axis is the vertical line, okay? So where it crosses the vertical line is right there at that point. Now, that point, if you look at it, whenever you're plotting a point or figuring out the coordinates for a point, the x value or the x-axis location goes first, and then the y-axis location goes second. So I'm not moving either direction on the x-axis, right? So my x value is 0. So right away that takes out a and b, okay? And then 0, well, it doesn't go, we don't go up to 6. 0, 6 would be here. And that's not quite where it crosses the y-axis, right? So the answer here is D again. Interesting. I think yesterday we were getting, I think, C for everything or B for, I can't remember. I can't remember what letter we were getting every day. But apparently now it's D. Yeah, so this is an exponential growth. So if you are experienced with exponential growth, this line right here, approximately, is what we call the asymptote or the asymptote. I don't know. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I've always said asymptote. But this would be an exponential function. It's going to keep going on like that forever and keep increasing in that direction forever. And then here it's going to get, it looks like it's going to get closer and closer and closer to 6. But it's never going to actually cross that. Okay. Yeah, so more than likely, you guys probably learned what a y-intercept is in middle school when you first start graphing lines and things like that. You may not get into exponential growth or exponential functions until you're in high school, but maybe you got into it earlier. You know, it doesn't really matter when you've learned it, right? As long as you've learned it. So the majority of the math that's on the SAT and the ACT is Algebra 1 and pre-algebra stuff. That's the vast majority of it. There's some geometry in there too. Okay, let's find another question. Okay, let me get another page. Let's put another page on here. Okay, so that was section 2. Come on. Come on. Okay, let's see this. Oh. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Yeah, I mean, you may have done algebra in 5th grade, but it was probably, algebra is pretty straightforward as far as like trying to find missing information. So I think really like algebraic thinking and algebraic reasoning is taught pretty early in your school career, right? But primarily for like finding y-intercepts and graphing and all of that, it's usually more like upper middle school, kind of junior high. It depends on where you are, what you call it, and into high school. But definitely exponential functions and function notation like this, you're probably learning for function notation. Hopefully you're seeing it in middle school, but you may not be, which is totally fine. But definitely in high school, you'll start seeing function notation like this. Yeah, 5th grade for like simple linear equations like slope, distance, things like that, totally makes sense. And the nice thing about it is that all of those terms like origin, quadrant, slope, all of those things, they never change. So the different intercepts, it never changes what they are, right? So even with a lot of these questions, you can still sort of figure it out even if you learned it a while ago. Okay, so go ahead and lock in your answers for this one. right, I'll go over the answer in just a minute with this one. All right, so this notation here, this f of x, that's called function notation. Okay, so if f of x, so whatever's in the parentheses, that's what gets substituted in for the x. So f of 7 would mean that it's 4 times 7 plus b, because again, whatever's in the parentheses replaces the x. Okay? And if f of 7 is 28, that means that 28 equals 4 times 7 plus b. Now 4 times 7 is 28, so 28 equals 28 plus b. So that means that b must equal 0. So the answer is A. So again, function notation is something that you may or may not learn. I always tried to, when I was teaching middle school, I always tried to at least show my students that. So then when it showed up on an exam like this, the one thing that always trips people up is that this f of x is not f times x, right? A lot of students, they can kind of figure out like, oh, do I need to divide by f? Things like that. F is not a variable. F means like function. Okay. So this is, one way of solving it. But Scott, you may have a different way of solving it, and that's fine, as long as you end up with the answer being 0, that b is 0. So one thing that you could do is you could use these different values. So the two main strategies that I have for SAT exams are to use the answer choices that they give you to like plug in to see which one works. Or the other way is to actually solve the problem and then find your answer in the out of the choices. Those are the two main strategies that will get you through quite a lot of the SAT problems. Okay. Jesse, yes, these are from the College Board website. They have PDFs of paper tests and practice problems. And so that's what these are from. They're probably previous exam questions and things like that. But this is, I know that the SAT for most people now is digital. It's online through the Blue Book app. It's nice because it also includes a calculator. It includes like a Desmos calculator for you to use. But this is still good practice for these problems. So what happened to the F? So the F just stands for function. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about function notation over here. So if I have, if I tell you that f of x is 2x minus 1, okay? So that would mean that if I had f of 2, well, okay, so f stands for function. So that means, so this right here, this 2x minus 1, that is the function. A function does one job really, really well. It takes an input, which is usually x. It goes into the function. And then that function does its thing and it puts out an output. Okay, so in this case, this f of x equals 2x minus 1. The function itself is times 2 minus 1. whatever number you give me or whatever letter you give me or whatever expression you give me, I'm going to do times 2 minus 1, times 2 minus 1, times 2 minus 1. So f of 2 would be 2 times 2 minus 1. So that's going to give me 3. Now I can also use whatever other letter I want to use. So I could do x. So g of x is x over 2 plus 3. So again, it's going to take whatever you put into the function, it's going to divide by 2, add 3, divide by 2, add 3. So g of 4 would be 4 over 2 plus 3, so that's going to be 5. Okay, so that F and the G and all of that, these letters out here are just telling you which function are you using. So there's no operation that goes with the G. You don't need to divide by the G or divide the F or anything like that. Okay, it's something called function notation. All right, let's get back to this. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, so here we've got a little bit of a geometry question. Not a little bit, I mean, it's definitely a geometry question. Okay, so go ahead and read through this question and then pop your answers in the chat. Let's get into it in a little bit. We got 37, 53, 127. Got a lot of different choices, huh? All right, I'm going to go through, and there are 4 words in this problem that are really important. Okay, we've got right triangles, we've got similar, correspond, and respectively. Okay, so these 4 terms are really, really, really important. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So we've got right triangles, LMN and PQR are similar. Okay, now similar, what that means is they're the same shape but different sizes. Okay, so if we've got 2 right triangles that are the same shape but different sizes, that one didn't work, did it? So we got this, this, and this. There we go. Okay, so we've got two right triangles that are the same shape but different sizes, right? So they're both, whoops, trying this new little feature on my concepts. Okay, there we go. So we've got LMN and PQR. Okay, so I could do LMN. Now PQR are similar where L and M correspond to P and Q respectively. Okay, so corresponding means that they're in the same location within the figure. And then respectively refers to like the order that L corresponds to P and M corresponds to Q. Okay, so L corresponds to P and M corresponds to Q. Okay, so that means that this must be R. All right, so angle M has a measure of 53 degrees. So this one is 53 degrees. Now, if they correspond, that means that they are equal or they're congruent. Okay, so within similar figures, corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so that means that if M is 53, Q is also going to be 53 degrees. So my answer is B. Okay. So similar doesn't mean the same everything. Similar means when you're talking about a mathematical definition, right? Similar means same shape, different sizes. So the angles are congruent, but the side lengths are proportional. Okay, so it's like double the size or triple the size or 1/3 the size, whatever you want to do that. Okay, Dee Dee, there is so much brain science behind why you understand this now and you didn't understand it when you were learning it when you were like 14 or 15, right? So the reason why is because like your brain is developed now. So now your brain is ready to make those connections. Okay? Ellie, don't have that kind of attitude. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. Let's look at this one. So we were doing some graphing earlier, so let's come up with that one. Okay, so take a look at this one and put your answer in the chat and we'll get into it in just a little bit. All right, give you guys another minute to get your answers locked in. One of those hard constants questions. I don't know what you're talking about, Zach. Which one are you talking about? Okay. So this again kind of shows, oh good. Yeah, SAT, it just takes practice, practice, practice. So again, this one, if you were just kind of given the top part of the question, right, you could probably, if you're in an Algebra 1 class or have taken an Algebra 1 class, you could get that equation, right? You could figure out what the slope is and all that, and right, you could do point slope form or whatever, right? But in this case, you have 4 options. You have 4 answer choices that could, or that one of them will be right? So again, so this gets into that test taking strategy. So the 2 main ways when you have a multiple choice math question or math test, 2 main ways to work through it are you either like solve the problem and find your answer among the choices, hopefully it's there, okay? Or you can use the answer choices and see which one works. Okay, because that helps you narrow it down that you know the right answer is in here somewhere. Okay. All right. So let's see. So it passes through the point 0,5 and is parallel to y equals 7x plus 4. So parallel, when you've got 2 parallel lines, that means that they have the same slope. Okay. So same slope. All of these equations are given in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. The slope is m, and the y-intercept is b. Now, what's nice about this one also is that they give you this point 0,5. That is my y-intercept. Okay? So my y-intercept, which is b equals 5. My slope for my line is going to be the same slope as this line, which is 7. So my slope is 7. So what I'm going to look at is I look at all these options, and this one here, A, has a slope of 5. Nope. And D has a slope of 5. Those I can just cross right off. I know they're not right. Okay. Now 7x or 7x plus 5. Well, I already looked at this, and I know that my y-intercept is 5. So my answer is B. Okay. Yeah, so this is Algebra 1 or pre-algebra. This is a pretty standard question, but again, this is from the SAT. Okay, this is from the SAT practice problems and practice exams that have been released. So these are really good practice, and I like doing a lot of these practice problems because this is from module, well, I think it's module 1. Yeah, it's module 1 math question. Okay, from the SAT, that's a module 1 question. So yeah, so this is pre-algebra, algebra 1 maybe. What is one thing you're going to learn in 9th grade? Well, if you haven't already learned this, you're going to learn this. Algebra 1, geometry. Those are pretty much what you're going to be doing a lot of. Okay, so let's see. Oh, here we go. Out of 300 seeds that were planted, 80% sprouted. How many of these seeds sprouted? Since this one's not multiple choice, you're just going to have to solve it. So let's see. Let's see how good your percentages are. So Zach, these are just PDFs from the SAT suite, the practice from the College Board website. Yeah. Ooh, got a lot of 240s coming in. All right. All right, I'll give you guys another minute to get in your answers. Everybody was really quick on this one, though. All right, so if we boil this down to like what is the like calculation you're going to be finding, right? So out of 300 seeds that were planted, 80% sprouted. How many of these seeds sprouted? So what we're looking for is 80% of 300. That's what we're trying to find. Okay, so 80% of 300, 80%, when we use it mathematically for calculations, we use it as 0.8 because it's 80 per 100 or 80 out of 100, which is 0.8. Of means multiply, and then we've got 300. Okay, so we would do 0.8 times 300, so we get, and we can just do that in our calculator, and we get 240. Okay. All right. Let's do a module 2 question. Wait, did we do this one already? No. Well, we kind of already did that one today. We already did one like this, but let's pop it in here anyway. Oh yeah, see? Cartier, is that your name? See, we're on the same page. We got some module 2 questions. So module 2 questions tend to be a little bit more advanced. Module 1 questions are we'll get to some of the higher level questions in module 2. Okay, but let's quickly go through this one. So I'll give you guys another minute or so to lock these in, and then we'll go to some more advanced questions. All right, so once again, the y-intercept is always going to be the y-intercept, right? The y-intercept is where we cross the y-axis. The y-axis is the vertical line, okay? So we've got this point right here is my y-intercept, which is, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 0, 5, okay? So then I find my answer right here. Okay, there you go. Good. This should be boosting your confidence, because when you're looking at these problems, you know, sometimes they're hard to practice like in a vacuum when it's just you alone, but like when we're walking through these together, right? It just helps kind of like helps boost that confidence a little bit, right? The highest level of math on the SAT, you know, it's Algebra 2. And I mean, there is some trigonometry on there usually, but it's a pretty small percentage. But I think there are some trig questions in here that we'll get into. But so usually you do trigonometry in Algebra 2. So there we are. Yeah, trig is all you really need to know from the Algebra 2 courses for the SAT. Sometimes, well, some polynomial things, some factoring quadratics, which those can be Algebra 1 or Algebra 2. So Jesse, the SAT does matter for a lot of college admissions, but a lot of colleges colleges and universities moved to being test optional. So they don't necessarily require you to take the SAT and do well on it. But some schools moved to test optional, and then they moved back to requiring testing. So it really just depends on where you're going, what you're trying to do. I think it's just sort of used like a basic aptitude for the vast majority of schools. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this one. So we've got some parallel lines going on here. So line M is parallel to line N. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to mark that as being parallel. Now, when we have parallel lines, what happens is now we've got two intersections. These two intersections are identical, okay? They are identical to each other. So when you're looking at these, this angle, ooh, no, I didn't want that one. I want the pen and I want purple. So this angle here and this angle here, because they're both kind of in that same location, that top left corner, kind of, if you look at the intersection, they're in like the top left corner, they are congruent, okay, because they're called corresponding angles. Now, this one here is also congruent because they're vertical angles, because they're directly across from each other. So that means that this is also congruent. Okay, so that means that if this one down here is 33 degrees, this one up here is also 33 degrees. Okay, so then this here, these two angles combined are a linear pair. They're going to add up to 180. So what that means is that x plus 33 is 180. So x equals 147. So that's going to be D. So okay, a lot of this are things that you're going to be learning in 9th grade. So a lot of these things are going through these different pieces with 9th grade. So 9th grade, most schools you're doing Algebra 1 or geometry, or kind of a combination of both. So yeah, so this is a big part of everything we've done so far are things that you'll probably see in 9th grade math. Okay. Okay. So x is 147. So the reason why it's 147 is because, so if we zoom in here, I'm just going to zoom in on the diagram a little bit more. Okay. Okay, let's walk through this again. Okay, so we've got parallel lines. Okay. Let's go about this a different way. Okay. These two angles here are going to add up to equal 180. Okay, so if they're going to add up to equal 180, then we would do this part here, this unknown angle, would be 180 minus 33, right? Because if a straight line adds up to 180, then these are going to add up to 180 right here. So then that becomes 147. Okay. When you have two angles, when you have two angles that are like across from each other, like this, okay. Oh, like a big X, I drew that too far off, sorry guys. When I have two angles that are across from each other, like this one and this one, okay, when they're across from each other like that, that means that they are congruent, okay, because they're vertical angles. So that means that this one is also 33 degrees, which means that this one is also 147 degrees, okay. So Robert, this is right from the College Board website. You can just Google like SAT practice tests, and here they are. They're a bunch of PDFs. Okay. Now, because line M and N are parallel to each other, okay, what that means is that this whole cluster of angles here is identical to this whole cluster of angles here. So I can fill these in if this angle kind of, if I think about it kind of like these 4 angles, right? The topmost angle, so I can just kind of color these in sort of how I did it down there. So this one is 33 and this one is 33. So this one is 147. So this one is 147. So then X equals 147. Okay. So the cluster, I'm talking about just like that intersection where those 2 lines are crossing. That's what I was talking about with the cluster of angles. Okay. And then yeah, all four of them would add up to 360. Okay. So in this case, yeah, like a group. Yep, exactly. Okay. So in this case, X is 147. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll talk about Sean and these tents. So Sean rents a tent at a cost of $11 per day plus a one-time insurance fee of $10. Which equation represents the total cost in dollars to rent the tent with insurance for D days? Okay. So when we're reading through problems like this, we want to see like which part of this is going to be changing, right? The thing that's going, so we have to talk about like independent and dependent, right? So the cost depends on how many days you rent it, right? So the cost the cost is going to change, but it's only going to change based on the number of days, okay? So when we've got this, our cost, we know it's going to be at least $10. That's not going to change because it is a one-time fee of $10. What is going to change is that we're going to have $11 per day. So that 11 is, I mean, if we rent it for 2 days, it's going to be $22 plus 10. If we rent it for 3 days, it's going to be $33 plus 10, right? So this is kind of 2 different ways of solving the same problem, okay? So we've got this here where I just kind of like wrote the equation and then I'm going to find the one that matches up. Or I can go through and I can think about this and I can like logic through it, right? Well, how much would it be if I rented it for 4 days? How much would it be if I rented it for 5 days? And then see which one of these equations are going to match up with what you know to be true, okay? And so in this case, we've got 11D and plus 10, so our answer is C, okay? All right, let's see. Let's pick another page. Okay. Ooh, here's a little spicy question for you guys. Let's see how close we can get in. There we go. Don't be scared. Don't be scared, guys. Because again, it takes practice. Okay, it takes practice. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, those of you who are freaking out about this, what I tell my students, like just give it a minute and try something. They both equal 4. So if two things equal the same thing, then they must be equal to each other. All right, this is the transitive property. So I'm going to write out the transitive property, which is basically if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Okay. Oh, Kane, let's not be rude. All right, so what I'm saying is that if x over y equals 4 and 24x over ny equals 4, then that means if they both equal 4, then x over y equals 24x over ny. Okay? So this one would, this is probably, I mean, so on the face of it, it seems really difficult, but I would say that this is probably like a pre-algebra or an algebra 1, a bit more of a challenge question, just because it's a little more, it can be a little bit more confusing. Yeah. Yeah, so rook. Yep, absolutely. So this is not something, I mean, like, I say it all the time, SAT, nobody's checking your work, right? I wouldn't write all of this out because I don't have to justify my answer, but right now I'm teaching it. So I'm gonna kind of like back up what we're doing and what steps we're taking. So yeah, we talk about being more efficient and things like that, like on percentage problems and things like that. This is all what's kind of going on in your head. You may be writing it down or not, okay? Yeah, the question is absolutely more difficult to read it, and it's kind of a shock value, right? So what you want to do is you've got x over y, so 24x over ny. If these are going to be the same thing, right, then n would have to be 24. N would have to be 24 in order for these to cancel out, okay? So x over y equals 24x over 24y. Okay? So n equals 24. Okay, so that would be my answer. Okay? Josh, I do tutoring. We do virtual tutoring. We've got an Algebra 1 boot camp that's running right now. But just, click the link, do the stuff, and all of that. Okay, so Shabson, I think that's your name. I can't really tell. So that's kind of the explanation right here. That's what I'm writing out, is that if they're both equal to the same thing, like if the fact that they both equal 4 means that they equal each other. And so if x over y equals 24x over ny, n has to be 24 in order for these 24 over 24 to cancel out, so you get x over y. Okay? Yeah, Josh, send me a message. Send me a message and we can sort something out. Okay. Ooh, okay. Ah. So BTV in Bulgaria, do you have, I know in some countries you've got where like our 6th grade is technically your 7th grade because we do kindergarten and then 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So is your, like, how old are you in 5th or 6th grade? So in 5th grade, you're 12. So that is kind of, that sounds like it may be like 6th or 7th grade for us that you've got 12-year-olds. So 12-year-olds are primarily like, typically you turn 13 when you're in 7th grade. So I think I think that's right, is that like our, in the United States, it's just like a year off, I think. Yeah, 6th or 7th grade would be when you're 12, yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. We've got a lot of people working this out. Okay, you can totally create a table for this, absolutely. Okay. So if we start with 20 ounces of water and we're gonna subtract 1 ounce every 4 days. Okay, so we have we have 20 ounces. Sorry, I'm just changing my settings. Okay, so 24 ounces. Oh my gosh, why do I keep saying 24 ounces? 20 ounces. I think I keep like getting ahead of myself saying 4 days. Whoa. Okay, so 20 ounces and it's gonna go all the way down to 9 ounces. Okay, so what's happened here is we've done minus 11. So we have lost 11 ounces. Okay, so we've lost 11 ounces. If I'm only losing 1 ounce every 4 days, so that would be 11 ounces times 4 because it took four days to lose each of those ounces, then it's been uncovered for 44 days. The answer is D. All right, let's do one more question. Ooh, let's do this one. Thanks, Josh. We'll get in touch with you. So this is another one that may that's a little less complicated than it seems. Yeah, user 8413, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so let's do about 1 more minute. Get your answers locked in. Ah, okay. So Logan, you solved for X, huh? Yeah. All right. So again, this one feels like it's a really complicated equation. And I mean, it is. If I were asking you to solve that equation, it might take a little bit of time, right? You've got to distribute, you've got to divide, you've got to do all of these things. However, here's something that's really fun that actually they like to do a lot on standardized exams, right? Because again, it's all about efficiency, right? It's about the time. So if you take the time to go through and actually solve for X and then plug in to 4 minus 3X to find the value, that is going to take longer than if you notice what the pattern is. So let's get into it, okay? So here's 4 minus 3X. Here's 4 minus 3X, and that's what I'm trying to figure out is 4 minus 3X. So what I'm gonna do is what somebody mentioned earlier. I'm gonna just call it A. I'm gonna say that A is 4 minus 3X. And then I'm gonna rewrite this as 9A plus 2 equals 8A plus 18. Okay, it's the same equation. Okay. So now I'm looking at this, I'm gonna subtract 8A, subtract 8A, subtract 2, subtract 2. So I get that A equals 16. And since A is also 4 minus 3X, that means that 4 minus 3X equals 16. So my answer is D. Okay, so much more efficient. Okay, so again, that's one of those things where if you don't notice it, you may still get the right answer. It's that time. It's that time constraint that can throw you off, especially in Module 2, because that's the one you've been working a while, and now these are really difficult questions. Okay? All right, and that's a pretty common thing that you'll see on the SAT and the ACT too. All right, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay cool for those of you in hot areas. It's finally cooling off. Well, it finally cooled off today in Michigan. It's a beautiful day today. All right, have a wonderful night. If you need any tutoring, one-on-one tutoring, virtual tutoring, click the link and do the stuff. And I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.